course, we know that the trial is going to be slated for next year. They're going to keep that date of next year, even though the judge kind of mentioned a little bit that he might be interested in pushing that date forward, because it seems like everyone across the board just wants a resolve. You know, your client has put forth, it's kind of hard to kind of diminish that a little bit as far as, you know, what is the possible jury pool going to see, you know, before they're getting called for this case, and that everyone across the board is claiming, you know, with their respective parties, that they have been either emotionally or financially damaged by everything that's going on, whether it's Blake and Ryan Reynolds, who, again, we have to stress, Ryan Reynolds was not even a part of the It Ends With Us movie.
What happens when a 300-page deposition gets thrown out of court because the judge says it's just there to embarrass someone? In this case, it means Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds walk away looking squeaky clean, while critics get warned they could end up behind bars.
That it's a lot of kind of mess. It's kind of giving you a little eeriness of what had happened with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation. But again, this isn't a criminal case. This is not a criminal matter. No one's going to jail. This is a civil matter. Again, you know, there's a lot of conspiracies, kind of what role he plays a little bit right now, but just sticking to the facts here. Whereas, you know, Baldoni's team, they're being accused of sexual harassment, all this types of things. So it's a lot of he said. So I think as far as the resolve goes, you know, could we all argue that there's been damage to every single party involved? Absolutely. But it'll be up to a jury to decide how much damage and who goes to what.
But was this really about justice, or protecting the powerful from bad press? Let's break down why the judge's move might be less heroic than it sounds, and how one letter with just 2 quoted pages managed to blow up into a legal power play you can't believe. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
You know, because it was the Lively complaint, so, or the Lively matter, I should say. The Lively team was sitting up front, kind of where the state or the government would sit as far as if it was a criminal matter. But as far as going inside the courtroom, again, this is a civil matter. And so what was called today was Lively versus Wayfarer Studios. And so what would happen when you go inside that courtroom, very similar to, you know, when I've been to those Diddy hearings, is that
imagine you're sure you've got the golden piece of proof, so you file it in court. You think it's going to blow the whole thing wide open, but before it even gets a chance to make a splash, the judge basically shreds it. Not literally, but close. Calls it drama bait and yanks it off the record like it was a bad tweet. That's pretty much what just happened in the case between Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and a pack of critics who've been tangling with them over allegations tied in some way to that messy web of Wayfair-related disputes.
This wouldn't be an issue right now. So I think on their side, them being the Baldoni team, you know, they're just kind of playing defense, right? Like, all of this started back in August, as far as we can tell. Honestly, all of it started back on that set of It Ends With Us, but go into effect so that way, you know, as far as ethics goes. And this was something actually Baldoni's team wanted. They encouraged it. They came out here during that press conference and were actually pleased by the way that the hearing went. And so I think that a lot of things as far as going forward now, but you know, it's a bunch of he said, she said, but the judge kind of wanted to stop the he said, she said. And as far as kind of making these statements out to the media, again, that that rule 3.6.
Now, the fight itself has been brewing for a while. On one side, you have Lively and Reynolds, 2 A-list actors who long ago figured out how to charm an audience but now have to charm a courtroom. On the other, you've got defendants and critics tossing in allegations and trying to stick the spotlight where it hurts. But the spotlight didn't just dim, it got switched off by the very person running the show. And the reasoning? Well, that's where it gets oddly convenient.
You know, Brian Friedman making those statements to the media, trying to, as Blake Lively's attorneys would explain it, trying to potentially taint the jury pool by making these out of comments. What happened now is that the judge was actually pretty reluctant, to kind of issue a rule 3.6. And from your clarification, Jesse, during that commercial break, you know, that was more so just about ethics, but it was kind of interesting in the sense that it was a lot of back and forth inside that courtroom. So, you know, as far as every statement that was made by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' attorney, it was always countered by Justin Baldoni's attorneys. Well, they started it first. They began this first. Had this not happened.
The flashpoint was a deposition so thick it could be used as a doorstop, around 300 pages long. Yet, when it made its way into a filing, only 2 tiny quotes from it even got mentioned. Just 2. The rest sat like an unopened Netflix series no one bothered to binge. To the judge, this smelled less like someone helping the court understand the issues and more like someone trying to sneak a gossip column into the case file. That's when the hammer came down. The entire thing was ordered stricken, wiped off the docket, officially labeled as having no proper litigation purpose.
Might be a lot lesser than it was before, but look, that website is still up and running. I actually saw the website on Friday when it had first launched, and I think that was also a big issue from Blake Lively's team, is that because they kind of explained that this was all their side of the story. This was one-sided, but you know, when you have receipts, proofs, timeline, facts, text messages, all this stuff, they were okay with the website going up as far as the amended complaint goes. Now, when it came to that timeline, they actually wanted that timeline to be incorporated with the complaint as far as going into that paragraph.
In plain speak, the court basically said, this isn't here to solve the case, it's here to stir the pot. And the judge didn't stop there. In their order, they emphasized the need to protect the judicial process from what they called private spite or public scandal. Sounds noble, protecting due process and keeping courtrooms from turning into feeding grounds for scandal blogs. But let's not ignore how the move also did Lively and Reynolds a huge favor in their PR war. Think about it. When you're a celebrity, the court of public opinion moves much faster than the actual court. If those 300 pages had been dumped out into the wild, the headlines would have been halfway around the globe before lunch. Mentions of Wayfair and Lively and Reynolds in the same sentence? That's enough for tabloids to throw a week-long party. By pulling the document, the judge didn't just maintain court integrity, they shielded the couple's public image from a sudden hit. And in those few sentences from Lively's own deposition that did leak into the letter, she wasn't gushing about her latest film, she was talking about smear campaigns. About the personal exhaustion of feeling like her family was in the crosshairs of something bigger than simple criticism. Her words painted the picture of someone not just fighting in court but weathering a constant, ugly cloud of accusations and speculation. That detail gave the whole thing a more human twist, turning her from movie star into person under siege. Still, people are asking why the judge sided with them so firmly. Was this truly an open and shut case of process abuse? Or was there a sense that controlling the narrative mattered just as much as preserving due process? Judges don't usually care about red carpets, but they do care about not letting their courtrooms become circus acts. And sometimes, maybe that's reason enough to favor the celebrity safest option. Whatever the motivation, the result was neat and tidy for Lively and Reynolds. The damaging material never saw daylight, the critics lost a weapon, and the headlines stayed friendly. Whether that was an unintended bonus or the quiet point of the exercise, it lined up perfectly with how any A-list legal team would want things to go. And here's the part that's making waves. This wasn't the only time lines were drawn in the sand. The judge didn't just swat away unnecessary documents. They've started keeping an eye on the words people are using in filings too.